Hello and welcome to Daily Dialogues by Policy Circle. India's role in global health delivery has long been a story of quiet leadership and untapped potential. From life saving antiretrovirals to affordable vaccines, Indian pharmaceutical companies have transformed access to healthcare across the developing world. Today, as the country spearheads the new global initiative to produce low cost versions of Lenacapavir, a breakthrough HIV prevention drug, the question is no longer about India's capacity to supply medicines, but about how it can convert that strength into strategic health diplomacy. In this episode of Daily Dialogues, we speak with Dr. Joe Thomas, Editor in Chief of Critical Public Health and Global Public Health Chair at Sustainable Policy Solutions Foundation, New Delhi, to understand India's growing influence in global health and the urgent need to strengthen its health diplomacy. We discuss what makes India indispensable to the fight against HIV, how global partnerships are reshaping the future of healthcare access, and what policy steps could turn India's pharmaceutical leadership into a cornerstone of its foreign policy. Dr. Joe, welcome to Policy Circle and to Daily Dialogues.
Good morning, Salina. It's nice to see you on the online.
Dr. Joe, how significant is India's contribution to global access to affordable medicines, particularly for diseases like HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria?
I'll begin with the transition of HIV treatment. It began with the generic Sidovudin, that is a single therapy that is supplied by one of the Indian generic medicine. And that time it was $1 per day it came, but internationally it was almost about $10,000. So that's a variation. India did the breakthrough for the generic medicine manufacture from AZT, and India began supplying generic medicine for particularly for HIV medicine to the India as well as to the international community about 25 years ago. And the first consignment was procured by MSF from the CIPLA, the Indian Manufacturing Company. The history began from there. Now it's reached to the Lenacapavir medicine. The Lenacapavir, the importance is that only 2 doses in a year, every 6 months, one injection dose, and after the second dose is at the second 6 months. So in a year, two injection, which is both used as both for prevention as well as as a as a vaccine. So this is the importance of this. And in the international market, this cost about $28,000. So the cost is a significant factor in access to medical treatment, particularly in ARV. So in that way, the India's capacity to manufacture generic medicine, Lenacapavir, and also international community's willingness to allow India to manufacture this as a generic medicine is two significant events or two significant phase in controlling and reducing HIV infection by 2030, a goal set by UNAIDS. So India will be contributing significantly, unparalleled to the contribution of any other country in the world.
Right. What lessons did India's handling of vaccine production and export during COVID-19 teach us about the strengths and limits of our global health role?
Maybe I'll begin one more. I'll add one more point to my earlier statements. India supplies about 80% of the world's generic antiretroviral medication to the world. So 27 million people are accessing antiretroviral medication or HIV treatment because of India supplying generic medicine. And also, India is again manufacturing TB, malaria medicine. But most importantly, Indian generic contributed for saving about, I would say it's $219 billion by the United States healthcare system. They saved that much money because India supplied generic medicine. And in 2022, 20% of the global generic drugs were exported by India. So this is the background. And also during the COVID time, there's a unique opportunity came to manufacture the manufacture vaccine on a scale. So, so that is the first time India got an opportunity on a limited time to expand the manufacturing capacity. The COVID-19 vaccine is supplied by as a generic production by the India's manufacturing companies. So that way, the COVID prevention and control also India significantly contributed globally. So I would say that HIV control and management, as well as the COVID prevention and care and control, India significantly contributed through India's capacity to manufacture generic medicine. And also in that process, India learned the technology expanded, refined, and also India learned how to deal with the global regulatory mechanism and to supply that. But at the same time, one of the lessons we learned should be learned or refined must be how do you manufacture medicine at scale in terms of in the context of emergencies and the demand for particular medicine at a given point in time, maybe a natural calamity, maybe another pandemic. So how we can scale up. So that's one of the lessons we have to constantly learn. So right now, our production is limited to few companies, about 15 generic medicine and one vaccine company. This production base has to be expanded. So that's one thing. Probably each state, India, the federal state is the key player of health as part of the India federal and the state relationship. Each state should have the capacity to manufacture vaccine and also to manufacture ARV medicine and generic medicine to the scale, at least to which could be able to contribute to and supply for their own domestic demands. So these are some of the issues India has to refine. There are other issues about globally, there are lessons to be learned. How do we integrate India's production capacity with the global diplomatic maneuvering, diplomatic possibilities? For example, how do we utilize India's capacity to manufacture the vaccines and the medicine, generic medicine, aligned with our foreign policy? So diplomatically, what advantage, how we can add strength and strategic depth for India's foreign policy and health diplomacy. And I would briefly say that that's one of the area India needs to strengthen its capacity. How do you strengthen health diplomacy on the back of generic manufacturing capacity and the vaccine manufacturing capacity? And how do we add a depth and additional meaning to the Indian foreign policy and Indian diplomatic capacity? So this is one thing I would underline, that this is one area which we have to learn much further. Thank you.
So to sum it up, you're saying that India is already a global leader in vaccine manufacturing or in pharmaceuticals manufacturing. We have the capacity, we have the scalability. Now we need to connect it to our diplomatic channels so that we can take this initiative forward.
I would like to just summarize some of the main points. One is India's capacity to manufacture generic medicines, particularly for antiretroviral, is a significant breakthrough in the HIV prevention control globally. And this needs to be strengthened by India creating a specific health diplomacy agenda and protocol for the country. And we should have a health diplomacy agenda which should be jointly prepared by a working group between the Ministry of External Affairs and also the Ministry of Health. And this will lead, this such a mechanism, institutional mechanism should lead in setting the agenda for the health diplomacy and also identifying the global forums, for example, Global Health Conference in Geneva, and also the General Assembly in New York and Security Council. So how do we utilize this opportunity for enhancing India's health diplomacy opportunities and contribution? So finally, I hope this discussion will lead towards Ministry of Health and Ministry of External Affairs working together, creating a working group to explore the possibilities of India's health diplomacy, particularly in the context of a generic medicine, and how we can expand this particular mechanism to include other diseases like TB, malaria, and other non-communicable diseases as well. Thank you.
Dr. Joe, so basically we are saying that, the overarching need right now is for a national policy framework for our health diplomacy. Dr. Joe, you have also written about India's role in making Lenacapavir affordable and accessible. How transformational could this be for global HIV prevention?
Now, as I mentioned earlier, this will be one of the major breakthrough in the history of HIV response because we are seeing it almost 30 plus years, the HIV response on advocacy, access to treatment advocacy, and also actual effort for the new scientific discoveries. But this is going to change the entire scenario because one is the cost of this. This is going to be reduced to $40, and the second is that two injection. Because earlier one of the criticism was the pill burden. Each person they had to take 15 to 20 pills in a day. So the pill burden was one of the significant barriers for adherence to treatment. So this two injection in a year, and this will expand both for prevention and also as a treatment in reducing viral load. So, and definitely this is going to have breakthrough in India domestically. And because of this, India may be able to supply antiretroviral medication for all the people and those who need for HIV medication in India through ARV clinics in all the districts in the country. And also, India will continue as a major supplier of antiretroviral medication for the other countries in the African region and Latin America and elsewhere. Thank you.
Right. What role should the Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Health play together in institutionalizing health diplomacy?
No, that I mentioned earlier, India should create a policy on India's policy on health diplomacy. India should, the human resources should be allocated for health diplomacy, both from the Ministry of Health as well as Ministry of External Affairs. There should be focal person who are specializing on health diplomacy, and they will identify opportunities for India jointly hosting sessions at the General Assembly as well as the World Health Assembly, and also India sponsoring specific global dialogue on enhancing access to treatment and also the other opportunities of health diplomacy, particularly in the context of the pandemic treaty. So there are huge opportunities for expanding India's and providing strategic depth for India's health diplomacy, and definitely it should be under the context of an institutionalization, creating a permanent secretariat of India's health diplomacy. India even may explore the possibility of a roaming health ambassador because many of the countries they have health ambassadors. India's health ambassador may coordinate all the opportunities of health provides in enhancing the diplomacy and opportunities for new idea, and also again be a presence in the India's trade negotiation. For example, India is doing trade negotiation with preferred nation trade negotiation with Australia, UK. So in that context, what is the scope of expanding our health diplomacy and protecting the health and well-being of the population? This could be the task of an institutionalized approach towards health diplomacy in India, even including the appointing a health ambassador from the India's to promote and to take this agenda forward. Thank you, Sajna.
Right. So what you're saying is that, we are fully poised to be a world leader in health diplomacy. We have the capacity, we have the scalability. So what we need is a national agenda and, a policy framework to push this forward. So with that, we come to the end of this episode of Delhi Dialogues. Dr. Joe, thank you very much for speaking to us. And thank you all our viewers, and hope to see you soon in another episode of Daily Dialogues. With that, I'm Sajna Nair here signing off. Thank you very much and goodbye.